Hello everyone, welcome back. Hope you are doing well and planning your study effectively. Today is 16th March. We are at the 7th day of the preparation. This day we assign to the random module. We will revise random module as well as solve some previous year questions. Along with that we will cover one more small topic, that is exception handling. Then without further delay, let's cover these two topics in today's video. According to the syllabus for the session 23-24, out of these three modules, random module is important. But we should be aware with the math module as well as statistics. We have studied these three modules in class 11 too. Let's just look at some of the functions in the math module. There is a power function to calculate power of a number. SQRT function is used to calculate square root. There are functions related to trigonometry. Here is the cell and floor function for rounding off. ABS function returns the absolute value of a number. There is one more function to calculate the absolute value, that is fabs. Like ABS function, it also returns the absolute value but in the form of float. Along with math module, just look at the sum of the function of statistics module. There are three important functions from this module we will be looking at. One is mean, to calculate the mean of the given data. Whereas median function is used to calculate the middle value. Mode is used to calculate the most common value from the given data. In the recent sample question paper, there was one question based on mode function of the statistics module. Now moving ahead to the important module, that is random module. It is used to generate random numbers. Based on this topic, you will be getting question where you need to guess the output of the given code. For that, you should know these functions. The first function is random. Random function generates floating point number in the range 0.0 to 1. Now look at the second function from this module, randint. There are two parameters A and B. It generates the random integer numbers in the range A and B. A is the starting value and B is the ending value. Both should be integer and B is inclusive. There is one more function, randrange. It also generates a random number from the start value to stop value. Here stop value is exclusive. Even step is also exclusive. We can generate number by specifying steps. That was all about three modules. Now let's check out the weightage of this topic. You will be getting two questions for 1 mark, so the total weightage is 2 marks. The first type of question in which you need to predict the output of the code, and second one is in the form of assertion and reasoning. Now let's solve these questions. Alright, here is the question in the sample question paper, where you need to find out the possible outputs. Look at the code carefully and draw your dry run table. With the first statement, we imported random module because to use the functions from the random module, we need to import it. In the second statement, we are using randint function. Randint function generates integer random numbers in the specified range. The range is 0 to 3. So the values of my numbers will be 0, 1, 2, 3. Let's move ahead to the next statement. Here is a list with some name of the colors: yellow, white, black and red. Look at the for loop. For I in color. I is iterating over the list. So the possible values of I will be yellow, white, black and red. Moving ahead, there is a nested for loop. The inner loop is iterating using the counter variable j. Look at the values of j. In range 1 to my number. The starting value of the range function is fixed, that is 1. Then what about the second value, that is my number? Here are the possible values for my number: 0, 1, 2, 3. So you will be getting values like 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2 and 1, 3. But the inner for loop will execute only for these two values, because for other two values the loop cannot execute. In the first combination, the second value is smaller than the first value. And in the second combination also, range function will consider it as a 0. So this is also not possible. Let's check out the statement inside the nested for loop. We are printing the value of I, and with end parameter we need to print star. Alright, then let's check out what are the possible values we may get for the pass 1. In the pass 1, the value of I is yellow and the inner for loop will execute for these two values. So for the first time it will execute once, for the second time it will execute twice. When it will execute once, we are printing yellow because the value of I is yellow followed by star. When the value of j is 3, this loop will execute twice. So yellow will get printed twice. Don't forget to add this star. In the second pass, the value of I will be white. Again, it will print once or it will get printed twice. In the third pass, the value of I will be black because the third element is black. In the same way, black will get printed once or twice. And at last in the list, we have element red. And we can understand easily. Red is getting printed once or twice. So here are the possible combinations we may get. Yellow will get printed once or twice. In the same way, other colors are also getting printed once or twice. Now look at the options. In the option A, red is getting printed first. So this is not possible. In the first pass, yellow will get printed. Now I am going directly to the option C. Here white is getting printed twice. That is also not possible. Now look at the option B and D. Yellow is getting printed once. Yeah, that is possible. Come to the next value. White is getting printed once. Yes, that is also possible. As a third value, black star we could see. That is also possible. Now look at the last value. Red star once. Yeah, that is also possible. So if we look at the option B, we can get this output. Now there is one more option, that is D. Let's check out. We may get more than one output. The first value is yellow star once. Yes, that is possible. Look at the next value. White star 2 times. Yes, that is also possible. In the third value, black star is 3 times. This is not possible. Only maximum 2 times we are getting values, not for the 3 times. Now we can conclude that our correct option is option B. Hope you understood this explanation. There is one more question based on module in the sample question paper. It is in the form of assertion and reasoning. So let's read it. Python standard library consists of modules. I hope you know the relationship between library, package, module and functions. To make it clear, look at this picture. In real life, you know library consists of many shelves. Shelf contains many books and in the books you will have many chapters. Now relate this to module and packages. Library contains many packages. In packages we have different modules and in the modules we have functions. This is absolutely correct. Library consists of many modules. From this we understood that this statement is true. Now let's read the reasoning. A function in a module is used to simplify the code and avoids repetition. This is the correct definition of the function. So this statement is also true. Both the statements are true, but this reasoning is not the correct explanation for the modules and the library. That's why this option is the correct option, that is option B. Both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation for A. In the playlist, there is a video on the random module in which I have covered many questions based on the random module. I would suggest to go through it and practice all the questions so that you can solve these type of questions where you need to find out output of the code. Even there are some 2 marks questions also which is based on the same concept where you need to find out the output of the code. I know the weightage of this chapter is less, 1 or 2 marks, but we cannot afford to lose it. Proceeding to the additional practice question paper. There is one question based on module. Which of the following is not a component of the math module? We studied some of the functions in the math module. Cell is a function of the math module. Fabs is a function of math module and pi is a constant of the math module. It's not a function but it is present in the math module. Only the function mean doesn't exist in the math module. It is a function of the statistics module. So the correct option is B. In this way we got an idea of 3 modules: math module, statistic module and the random module. Now we will be going through the topic exception handling. First of all, let's try to understand what is exception. Errors means it is a problem which occurs in the program execution and it stops the program. Errors are of two types, syntax error and the exception. When the syntax is wrong, we will be getting syntax error. But the syntax is correct. Still, we may get some errors, that is called as exception. It is an unexpected event that occurs during program execution. If we talk about syntax error, means if we are not writing syntax correctly. Here colon is missing, that's why we are getting syntax error. True is a keyword and we are trying to use it as an identifier. So this also will give syntax error. Here we started double quote but forgot to end it. So when we don't follow the syntax of the programming language, we get the syntax error. Then in which scenario we get exception? Here is the first scenario where we are trying to divide the number by 0. The second scenario in which we are trying to import one module which doesn't exist. And here is the third scenario where we are trying to access a variable that doesn't exist. So in this case we got exception 0 division error. In the second case we got the exception module not found error. And in the third example we got name error. So there are different types of exceptions. Here is the list of the exception. Out of this we saw example on 0 division error, import error and name error. We understood that we will get exception, but how to handle it? For that we will be using the concept of exception handling. Here is the try except block with the help of which we will be handling the exception. Let's discuss each block one by one. The first block is try block. The statement which may result in exception that we will be writing in the try block. That is done, that exception occurs. Now how to handle it? That statement we will be writing in the except block. Here we are printing message, the denominator cannot be 0. Now if you will execute this code, you will not get any exception. You will get proper output. In this way we handle this exception 0 division error. So in try we write the statement which may result in exception and in except block we handle that exception. We discussed some examples which were causing exception. Now let's try to understand how to resolve it. We were trying to import one module which doesn't exist. That statement we have written in the try block. When this exception will occur, it will come to the except block and we are printing message invalid module name. So here is the output of the code. We are not getting any exception error. We covered one more example in which we were trying to print the value of z which doesn't exist. Now that statement we have written in the try block. When the error will occur, it will come to the except block and we are getting this output. If you know the name of the exception correctly, you can mention it with the except keyword. So this was import error and here we were getting name error. So that we have mentioned. If we don't mention any exception name, except block will handle all the types of exception. By specifying the correct name of the exception, we can catch specific exception. For that you will be writing the name of the exception here. Try block can have many except block. When we mention the name of the exception, mention the specific one in the beginning and then generalize at the last. Look at the example where we are dividing the number by 0. We know with this example we will get the exception 0 division error that we have mentioned. After that one more exceptions we have specified and finally the generalized one. So remember, whenever you catch the specific exception, write the specific one in the beginning and at last the generalized one. There is one more example where we are handling specific exception. One list is initialized and with this statement we are trying to access the element which is at the index 10. This statement will result in an exception because there is no element at the index 10. We know the name of the exception, that is index error. So we have specified in the beginning and after that we are specifying other type of exception. So the specific one in the beginning and then you can mention other and finally generalize one. We understood try and except block. There is one more block, that is else block. In the try block we write the statement which result in exception. If exception occurs, it will come to the except block. But what if exception doesn't occur? Then it will come to the else block. else block we need to write after all the except block. Look at this example. We know when we try to divide any number by 0, we will get the exceptions. So this block will get executed. But here there is no problem. Exception will not occur. That's why the control will not go to the except block. It will come to the else block. Here we are printing it. So we will get this output. We are clear with the try block, except block and the else block. There is one more block called as finally. We write the statement which will result in exception in the try block. If exception occur, we will come to except block. If exception doesn't occur, we will come to else block. But what about finally block? Whether exception occurs or not, the control will always come to finally block and this code will always run. This concept will be clear with this example. We are trying to divide by 0. So exception occurs. Then the control will come to the except block. This message will get printed. Denominator cannot be 0. In this case, else block will not execute because exception occurs. It went to the except block. It will not come to the else block now. Finally block is gonna execute. So we are getting this output. This is finally block. Hope you understood all 4 blocks. Hey, we are well familiar with the exception handling. Now it's time to check out some of the questions based on it. The weightage of this chapter is 1 mark. You will be getting 1 mark question in the section A. Look at the question. We need to tell whether the statement is true or false. Let's read the statement carefully. An exception may be raised even if the program is syntactically correct. Yes, this statement is true. Even if the syntax is correct, you may get exception. Just now we studied one example where the syntax was correct. We were writing divide 5 by 0. The syntax is perfectly fine, but still it will result in an exception. Now let's look at the 1 mark question which is in the additional question paper. Here we need to tell which of the following statement is false. Read the statements carefully. In the option A, it is written that a try except block can have more than one except block. Yes, it is true. We saw one try block can have many except block to handle different exceptions. So this statement is true. Look at the next statement. One block of except statement cannot handle multiple exceptions. This statement is false. We just now studied that with the except keyword, if you are writing specific exception name, then it will handle specific exception. But if we don't write anything after this except keyword, it can handle any type of exception. It can handle many exceptions. It is a generalized exception block. Actually, we got the answer, but let's read other statements too. The finally block is always executed. Yes, it is true. What is the last statement? When 1 is equals to string 1 is executed, no exception is raised. Yes, this is true. This statement will not result in any exception. We are comparing integer 1 with string 1. It will give answer false. Ultimately, our correct option is B. Here are some more questions for practice. We never know which type of question will be asked in the exam. In which block you write the code for error, and we write the code for error in the try block. Look at the second question. What will be the output of the following code? In this code, we are trying to access variable z which doesn't exist. So this statement will raise an exception and we will get this output. Look at the next question. What type of error will be raised? In the code, we are initializing 2 variables. In the next statement, there is a if. But here colon is missing. It is a syntax error. We did not write the syntax of the programming language correctly. Look at this question. We need to find out the output. If you know the answer, pause the video and let me know in the comments. We are trying to print 5. This will not raise any exception. So the control will come to the else block. This statement will get printed. And you know finally block will always execute. So this is the another statement will get printed. We initialize one variable with 10.2 and trying to print it. So the value of this variable will get printed. It will not go to any of the block because exception is not getting raised. Let's solve one more example. In the first statement, 3 variables are getting initialized. In the second statement, we are printing string A. So the output we will get as A. Come to the try block. Here we are printing string B. So B will get printed. Look at the next statement. Here we are trying to divide 5 by 0. It will raise an exception. After raising exception, control will come to the except block. We are printing D. So D will get printed. After that we are printing E. Now in the last print statement we are printing the value of A. And the value of A is none. So none will get printed. Here is the output of this code. Don't get confused between the string A and the variable name A. I am enjoying this session. Hope you too. Here is one more question. Try it yourself and write the answer in the comments. That's a wrap for today's video. Hope you understood random module as well as exception handling. Now you can solve any type of questions based on it. In case of any doubt, let me know in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, do share with your friends. In the next video, we will be covering text file and even we will solve previous year questions based on it. So until next time, stay positive, take care of your health. I will see you in the next video.